research for 2022. I wanted to specifically focus on how we can find your niche and build a brand. Now, I will be saying throughout the presentation why I think it is important to focus on niches and on brand building rather than old school methods of just sticking to selling random products, but we'll go with the flow. So next slide, Migla. Okay, who am I? So I am a 7-figure Amazon seller and a brand builder. I'm the founder of the Sharon Evan YouTube channel and of the Amazon FBA Alphas and the Alpha Coaching. And I'm a co-host on the Seller Sessions podcast. And next slide, Megla. You may have seen me in many different summits and podcasts, as you can see here. All right, and let's get into it. So the topics I will be discussing today is number one, what has changed? Because as Megla was saying before, supply chain is really screwed up at the moment. And it's something that I believe you have to be aware of today. What we must be doing in order to survive on Amazon today. Megla, just so you know, I'm getting feedback. Maybe you want to mute yourself. Sounds like you've muted me as well. Can you hear me? Okay. Why niching down and becoming a shark in a small pond is important in my opinion today. What the niching down process looks like, how to find your starting points, because I found in my time of coaching other people that a lot of people's hardest part of finding a product is a starting point. So we're going to talk about starting points. I quickly put this into the presentation yesterday because it's a new tool that I think has bought, it's kind of a game changer. It's the new Amazon Product Opportunity Explorer tool. I'm going to give an example of what niching down can look like and one of my favorite current product research methods. So that's what we're going to talk about. Next slide, Megla, please. Okay, so as Megla said just before we started, a lot has changed. COVID has impacted the world in many different ways. For the e-commerce world, on the one hand, it's caused even more demand. And on the other, it's caused a lot of adapting and adjusting for e-commerce businesses and the way that we run our business. Megla, can you hear me? Yep. Okay, cool. Next slide. Cool. So worldwide, on the one hand, the world and worldwide e-commerce has seen a large increase in sales, including Amazon worldwide markets. You can see year over year when it comes to e-commerce. I think that before COVID, e-commerce was 10% of retail, if I'm not mistaken. And today, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 13 or 15%. So we can see that year over year, it keeps growing and growing and growing. And specifically COVID has caused, I mean, even my 85-year-old grandfather now buys online. So on the one hand, it's had that amazing side of the fact that demand has grown. On the other hand, if we go to the next slide, it's also caused a whole bunch of chaos. So a lot has changed. And I will ask Megla also maybe that we can send these slides out later in case people can't see it zoomed in, or I'll find a place to send it to people. So a lot has changed. We said on the one hand, there's a lot more demand, but on the other hand, there's a lot of chaos. So number one, supply chain currently is absolutely chaotic. The entire supply chain industry is broken. This includes trucking and shipping, 3PLs, issues with ports, etc. Manufacturing today is also broken. You've got major increased lead time. You've got increase in raw material, increase in labor costs, the exchange rate, restock limits within Amazon. Amazon's changing their restock limits without warning. The last restock limit that they created was, I think, like 7 or 8 months ago. They just said it overnight without giving us any warnings. And another thing that has changed is that Amazon is itself as a company is rewarding people who are actually brand registered and have a brand, rather as in the way that they're giving more marketing tools and protection, etc., to people who are actually brand registered. So it looks like Amazon is also going towards the direction where they want you to focus on brand building rather than selling random stuff. Even in order today for you to create a listing and create and actually use a brand name and not be generic, even for that today, you need to prove that your product actually has a logo on it. So also Amazon looks like it's going towards the direction of brand building. Now, even though this is not part of how to find a product, I did feel that this was crucial to speak about, because when it comes to product research, I feel that today you have to know a lot more than what you maybe needed to know 5 or 6 years ago. When I started on Amazon in 2016, you could get away with not knowing how your product is manufactured. You could get away with not knowing everything about, how to optimize your shipping in the best way. Today, with the amount of chaos that there is, you really can't get away with that anymore. The chaos in supply chain means that you have to have much better inventory optimization. You may come across out of stock issues. You have to have more cash flow, basically. The broken manufacturing may mean that you'll need larger orders or closer sourcing, meaning closer to where you are. Obviously, products are costing more today as well. You're going to have much smarter sourcing. Restock limits, this means that you will most probably need to use 3PLs, and you will need to learn how to prioritize your products if you have multiple products. And brand building, obviously, Amazon is looking towards more of people who are focusing on brand building. We can go to the next slide, Megala, please. Another thing that has changed, because again, it's important to speak about the changes. Tomer spoke about this just before me as well. It's like a thing now to be an Amazon aggregator. They're just popping out from left to right. There's so many different aggregators out there today. And on the one hand, if you're able to get to a place where you exit, that's amazing. On the other hand, as a seller today, a lot of your competition could also be an aggregator who have a huge marketing team behind them. They have a lot of money behind them. So in my experience from working with many sellers, and I don't live just in my little bubble of products, basically, I've come to the conclusion that although the goal is to get to an exit, most people that watch us are not necessarily going to get there. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to, find great products and be able to make a lot of money on Amazon. But I think that it doesn't need to be the only goal, but you have to know today that there are a lot of aggregators out there, which also means that some of your competitors could have a huge marketing team behind them with a lot of money that you may not have. And that's another point as to why I think that getting into niches is something that everyone should be thinking about as well. Next slide. So what is product research going to look like in 2022? Let's move on to the next slide. So the first thing that I think is absolutely crucial to understand is you need more cash flow than what you needed years ago. When you're selling on Amazon today, with all the chaos that I spoke about before, Megla, can you hear me? Am I back? Yep. Okay. All right. So cash flow is absolutely important, which means that you need money coming in. If maybe back in the day you could think about quitting your job, after 6 months, it's probably not going to happen. Now you need to make sure that you keep having cash flow coming in. And that's mostly also because of the amount of chaos there is in supply chain today. Smarter sourcing. You can't source the way that we used to source back in the day today. You have to be really, really smart about your sourcing, which means you have to understand exactly what your product is made out of, the manufacturing of your product. You have to understand how to optimize your shipping best way possible. Be really, really smart about what port you're sending your products to, etc. And also, we'll speak a little bit later about diversifying where you're sourcing from as well. Differentiation, you need to have much better differentiation today than what you may have been able to get away with in the past. Differentiation is key today. So these are the main three things that I think that is a big difference between possibly 2019, 2020, 2021 coming into 2022. Need more cash flow, must be smarter when it comes to sourcing. You need to know everything, the ins and outs of your products today, and better differentiation. Next slide, please. So COVID-19 has taught us that diversification is important and that you should not put all your eggs in one basket. I heard the speaker before me saying that, at this point, you should only really focus on selling on Amazon. I personally disagree with that today as someone who sells on Amazon and off of Amazon, simply because of the fact that I think COVID's taught us that if your product can only be sold on Amazon, you're, at any point could lose your business. Imagine if Amazon tomorrow takes down your entire product range and that's the only place that you're making your money, and you have a house to feed, children to feed, a mortgage to pay, etc. Whereas if you're also selling your products outside of Amazon, so from the very beginning, looking into products that are social media worthy and products that are able to be sold outside of Amazon as well, we can move on to the next slide, Megla. All right, we absolutely have to diversify our sourcing today. I don't think that there is a replacement to obviously sourcing from China, but I think that it's very much something that the world needs to start thinking about as well, something that COVID has taught us. Some of you may be thinking, well, what has this got to do with product research? But sourcing and product research go hand in hand. You can't find a product and not know where to source it from. All right. And I'm talking about this as well. And I think something that's crucial about understanding about me is that, like, I'm in the trenches with everyone as well. I actually sell on Amazon, and all the shit that everyone's going through, I'm going through on a day-to-day basis as well. So I'm talking about this stuff because I'm affected by it daily. Even I have had to be a lot smarter with the way that I'm sourcing and forcing myself to learn how to source from other countries that I don't really have experience in. So looking into obviously places like India, Mexico, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, the US, Turkey, etc. I think that it is an important time that if you understand what your product requirements are, how your products are made, etc., you can then look at, well, what other country apart from China can I also look at? And why this is important is because if COVID has taught me anything as a brand builder, as a seller, and as a coach, is that you just absolutely cannot have all your eggs in one basket in anything anymore, which includes where you sell your products and where you source your products from. And I'm sure that Megla would probably absolutely agree with this as well. We can move on to the next slide. Okay. I think that today it is also, and soon you guys will understand where this is leading me to. I think today it is also really important to diversify your marketing. I am very strong on, if you sell on Amazon, then you most definitely should be knowing how to launch your products on Amazon. But again, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that we should not put all our eggs in one basket. And therefore, I think that in a world where social media is so important today, and honestly, you can also, if you know how to do it properly, market your products in many different ways, also for free through social media as well. I think that finding a product or building a brand with products that do focus on a buyer avatar, so that you do know where your buyers hang out, so that you can also market to them outside of Amazon today, is crucial. And I think that this is also one more thing that has really changed a lot in the last couple of years, but I think mostly also in the last year, even more. So we should be looking at diversifying our sourcing, diversifying where we're selling our products, and then also diversifying our marketing. Let's go to the next slide. And then diversifying our product catalog. So back in the days, most people would just focus on selling products, and you could get away with that when you sold on Amazon. I think, 2016, 17, 18, 19, possibly a little bit of 2019, you could probably get away with just selling random stuff on Amazon. But I most definitely think that the world is going into a direction of brand building and focusing on a buyer avatar rather than selling random stuff, exactly for the reasons what I spoke about earlier. Also about when you understand where they hang out, you can also easily market to them. And that way you're not only dependent on Amazon. Okay, now let's talk about the biggest problem with everything I just said. So part of the problem with everything I just said is that most sellers today are usually taught to find their products using softwares. I have never used softwares to find products, and I don't intend to use softwares to find products. I do use softwares for keywords research and competitor research, and for many things when it comes to analyzation, but I do not use softwares to find starting points. So softwares, more sellers that are using softwares ends up buying the same product, finding the same products because everyone's taught to put in the exact same parameters. Differentiation, a lot of Am I back, Megla? Okay. A lot of people don't notice how differentiation is crucial today. When I talk about differentiation, that means visual differentiation from the search page. Okay. A lot of people say, well, my product has got a lot better quality. That's a must. That's not a differentiation, right? Your quality should always be the best quality that there is. And not only that, the buyer will not know that your product is much better quality until they receive the product. So your differentiation today must be visual, because people are going to a search page on Amazon and they have your product and other products, and we want you to get that click and for them to actually click onto your listing and see what your offer is. And if your product looks exactly the same as everyone else's, you're probably not going to get that click, or it's going to be a price war. So who sells for the least price? And the most important thing that I think that is a real big issue today, and there's a lot of content out there is also at fault for people thinking about this. A lot of people are just so algorithm focused. Many sellers are only thinking about how to trick the algorithm and things like that. And they forget that we're making products for real people. So we're actually, selling to a shopper and an actual human, not just looking at numbers and algorithms. And I think that's something that is important. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. Finding your niche. Yep. Let's go. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So first of all, what do I mean by when I talk about niching down? Because this is something that you may hear me say throughout the presentation. How do we niche down? So what is niching down? On the left-hand side, we can see there is a category. Under a category is a niche. Within that niche, there is a sub-niche, and there can also be what I call a micro niche. An example of that would be fitness would be the category, yoga could be the niche, sub-niche could be the kids yoga, and a micro niche could be yoga for little girls. Or it could be, for example, yoga mats for kids. Okay. So a lot of people think that, well, if you're niching down, then there probably isn't a lot of demand around that. That's not true. There is a lot of niches out there that people, so for example, if I was to tell you to sell a yoga mat a year ago, because in the last year I've spoken about yoga mats a lot, so maybe this isn't applicable anymore, but a year ago, if you were to look at kids yoga and yoga mats for kids, there were no yoga mats made for kids a year ago. There was maybe 2. And there was a lot of search volume around kids yoga mats. And when you would type into Amazon kids yoga mats, what you would see would be yoga mats for adults, because no one was making them for kids. So they were getting the sales for those keywords. So also, if you would have spoken to any Amazon expert or leader or whatever a year ago and say, hey, I want to launch a yoga mat, they would have laughed at you and said, that's way too saturated. Not only that, you'll see throughout the presentation how I can. It's if you're able to repurpose a product or take a product that is saturated on Amazon from one place and sell it to a certain buyer avatar, in many situations, you can not only build a brand around that, but you can get away with selling those saturated products. So niching down, even if it's in a saturated niche, of course, there's market analysis and keyword analysis that you need to do there, but you can, in many scenarios, get away with that. Next slide, please. So I call it becoming a shark in a small pond. Most people are usually going to be, we can see the two fish bowls. I took this from another presentation of mine, and I try to put it in every single presentation that I have so that people can sort of, visualize this and remember this. A lot of people are trying to be a large fish a small fish in a large pond, and I want to be a shark in a small pond. So, for example, the left-hand side would be the saturated niche or the category, and then the shark is me dominating in a niche, and hopefully you dominating in a niche. We can move on to the next slide. All right, I'm taking a really quick sip. Okay. I talk a lot, and I was thinking about how I can make this, still get everything out there, but make it very focused on what I want to bring out. There are a lot of things you need to do beyond what I'm going to talk about today, but this is just a bird's eye view of my niching down process. Okay. We find a category or a product. We brainstorm who can we sell this to by avatar, knowing who you're selling to. Keyword research around that. Market and niche analysis, competitor analysis, differentiation. I haven't spoken here about sourcing or cost because that would be for a different presentation and for another time, because right now I'm focusing how to actually look at niches. I encourage everyone to take a screenshot of this because this is my exact, it's not a formula, it's just my exact process for how I find niches. We can go to the next slide. All right, so the thing I find that people have struggled with the most, I work with a lot of sellers one-on-one, and I noticed that when the more people that you work with, the more you realize how much you live in your own bubble. And that's why I feel like I'm a much better seller today from coaching so many people, because for me, starting points were really easy to find. And that's just the type of person that I am. I'm a very creative person. And I found that for a lot of people, it's like a real big headache for them to get to this. So there are 3 different starting points that I usually look at. The first one is product. So you may have found a product, and then the question is, how can I focus on a specific niche? So for example, how we looked at yoga or yoga mats, right? Really saturated, but is there a specific buyer avatar that I can sell it to? Your starting point may be a category. So you may have found a broader category. So for example, fitness or yoga. And then how do you niche down? Buyer avatar. You found a specific buyer avatar and you want to find products to sell to that buyer avatar. So let's just say an example could be a buyer avatar could be, I've spoken about this in the past. Let's say a nurse. Nurses in America need to buy all their own gear. And there are many, many products that they need once they start working at a hospital or at a clinic. And they have to buy that themselves. They're not given it from the hospitals. So for example, if you were to start doing research on the buyer avatar as in nurses, not only are there different types of nurses, right? But there are so many different types of products, and there is so much demand around that. So my starting point could have been, for example, a product. It could have been a category, or it could have been a buyer avatar. And then how do I focus on a very specific niche within that? So examples, next slide, please. So if I found a product, I would ask myself the question, number 1, is there a gap in this market? Can I repurpose this product? Can I focus on a specific buyer avatar? So you want to be able to focus on a specific buyer avatar or a specific niche, but you don't want to also be way too specific. So if I found yoga mats and I asked myself, is there a gap in the market? And I started, you'll see soon, I have a list of things I go through. and I started to ask myself, okay, can I sell this to a specific type of person that does yoga? I don't want to get too specific to only pink yoga mats. That's probably a little bit like pink yoga mats for 5-year-olds. That's probably too specific. Okay, so we don't want to get too specific, but we do want to be able to focus on a specific niche. Can a slight change be made to the niche, and can it also be bundled with a better offer? A lot of the time, a bundle is a great way to differentiate as well. Next slide, please. So an example could be, for example, let's just say that the product was cutting boards, and I wanted to focus specifically on mini cutting boards for kids. Okay. Or the product could have been blankets and blankets and let's just say blankets for people in the hospital. It's always cold in a hospital 24/7, whether it's hot or cold outside. And it could be positivity blankets. If the product was, for example, yoga mats, as I said, I love this example, as you can tell, then yoga mats for kids. So I found a product. A lot of the time, when people look at a product, the first thing they'll do is they'll open up something like helium-10 X-ray and they're like, oh, it's way too saturated. But then they forget that, well, wait a minute, this is one keyword. You're looking at a bird's eye view of it, but can you niche down to a specific buyer avatar within that? Blankets as a whole may be saturated on Amazon, but do you know how many different buyer avatars you can sell blankets to? There are so many specific types of blankets that you can sell to and focus on a specific niche. Same thing with yoga mats back in the day. Today, I'm probably part of the reason why it's become saturated a little bit. But anyway, let's go to the next slide. Category. So starting point with a category. So for example, let's say that you know that you would like to sell a decor product. You just don't know what. So you'll see in the next couple of slides how I would ask myself then, well, then what kind of decor? So for example, it could be that I'm looking to decor and then I get to outdoor decor and then I'm going to focus on garden and then I focus specifically on tree decor. Okay. Tree decor is a big thing in America. Bridal showers. If you were to tell someone that you want to get into the bridal shower niche, they may say to you, oh, it's so saturated. Yes and no, because there's so many niches within that. So I could focus on gifts for bridesmaids. I could focus on bridesmaids proposal gift sets. I could focus on groomsmen proposal gifts, flower girl proposal gifts, etc. So when you're looking at a category as a starting point, it's actually not that difficult to start niching down. You just need to start making a list, which I'll show you how to do soon. And then the third starting point is, let's go to the next slide, starting with a specific buyer avatar. So if you're able to make a list of different types of buyer avatars, it could be through writing down different types of careers, different types of people, disabled people, special needs, specific type of religion, whatever it may be. And many times they need products. Okay. So, or for example, in the example I've given here, it could be that you're maybe looking into teachers and you may see a specific type of teacher supply and you could focus on PE teacher supplies. Or if you want to look towards gifts for women and specifically focus on divorced women and then funny gifts for divorced women. And this may sound like funny to you, but if you went and looked at funny gifts for divorced women keywords, you'll see that there are a lot of people searching for gifts to buy women who are divorced. And I find all these different types of things just by focusing on different types of buyers and really niching down using things like Pinterest and Google, etc. Next slide, please. So starting point. Yep, ideas. Okay, so you guys may not be able to see this well, what we're looking at now. I wonder if I can zoom into that. Okay, great. So I have a product research and sourcing course and I do a marathon every month. And in my marathon, I send out a worksheet to everyone. These are some of the questions that I give to people when it comes to worksheets. So we talked about, well, how do we find those starting points? Because I don't use softwares for starting points. We said that. I only use my brain. So how do I get to those starting points? So for example, a list of hobbies, things that you or your children or your partner or your sibling or your friends love to do. So you can see that these were my examples. I wrote down Pokemon because my son's obsessed with Pokemon, Lego, ninjas, and then I wrote watches because my husband has a thing for watches. And this may sound funny to you, but if you went and looked at keywords like storage for Pokemon on Amazon, you'll see that there's a lot of search volume around that. Life-changing experiences. Remember, we're focusing right now on how to find your starting point. Life-changing experiences that you have gone through or someone close to you have gone through. So for example, pregnancy, one of my brands is a postpartum brand. And I started that brand because I gave birth and I went through all these different things after I gave birth. Sickness, birth, dream job, becoming a parent, losing a loved one. I've lost a business as well in the past. All of these things could be starting points for niches or for products. And a lot of the time, you are your buyer avatar and you can make the best freaking products in the world because you're your own buyer avatar. And you didn't even think about that. So for example, I put here sickness, and it's not like, the best subject to speak about, but for example, cancer, there are so many keywords around gifts for people with cancer. And I had a coaching call with a woman once who had survived cancer 4 times. And we started speaking about all these different gifts that she was given and how pathetic they were. And I said to her, why don't you look into that? Like, you were the end receiver for that. And we spoke about all of these different things. And there was so much search volume around these things. And you're also helping people and possibly even changing lives. So think about these types of things as well. Sometimes your starting point is things that you've gone through. Things that you're like, weird things that you love to do, or that you like. So for example, I have a thing for owls, right? I went and looked up owl decor. There's like a whole search volume around owl decor. I love anything to do with stationery, adult Lego, superheroes, all things cute. Please remember I said all things cute, because soon you'll see how I found an entire niche around that. My mom has a thing for shoes. I love huskies. I drink way too much water. All of these things can lead me to starting points for finding products. Jobs that you may have had in the last couple of years. Remember, we said that sometimes a starting point can also be a certain type of buyer avatar. So for example, my mom works with seniors. My sister is a DJ. My husband used to own a restaurant. My dad has a driving school. My stepdad has a helicopter business. All of these things, I can start making lists of products these people need, right? And I can do more research about that. One of my favorite ways today to do product research, and probably one of the ways that I feel most passionate about, is having these starting points and then joining Facebook groups around these starting points. So for example, Kids Hacks. There's a Facebook group that I've joined around Kids Hacks. Boho Decor, Montessori education, cute stuff. And soon you'll see I've joined a whole bunch of kawaii, which is Japanese, the word cute in Japanese, Facebook groups, home decor Facebook groups. And soon you'll see how those Facebook groups can lead me into products. Wow, that was a lot of talking. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we're going through our different starting points, because again, we spoke about how sometimes it can be difficult for people to think of starting points. You may have seen different presentations of mine where I say that hobbies is one of the great ways to find niches as well, because every single hobby in this world is connected to products. If you think of any hobby, you're welcome to go and do this. Any hobby that you think of, like even insect pinning. There's like a hobby where people pin insects for some presenting. It's really gross. Even for that, they need products, right? So hobbies are a great way of finding products. You can go to here to Wikipedia and see a whole bunch of weird ass hobbies that you've never even thought of ever. Just go to Google, type in hobbies, and Wikipedia will come up. There's, I think, 300 and something there. Another thing is careers. So a lot of different types of careers need different types of products. Yep, we can go on, Megla, to the next one. Decor styles. So there's so much money in decor on Amazon. And not only that, most decor products are not review dependent. They're design dependent. So the point of entry is easier as long as you get the right type of product for that type of buyer. Next, please. Okay, once we have come up with our starting points, this is what I usually do with myself. I say, can I market it to a specific type of niche? So for example, and we don't want to get too specific, But for example, I spoke about decor earlier. So there's so many different types of decor, right? There's shabby chic, boho, farmhouse, humorous, funny, Scandinavian, rustic, minimalistic, country, etc. Not only that, there's also decor for certain things like music decor or decor for doctors' clinics, right? There's so many different types of decor. When you found your niche, can you sell it in a different language, right? Spanish in America is the second largest, would be the right word, language, more spoken language after English, right? There are many, many products that you can make in Spanish and they will sell very well because of the amount of search volume around it. Canada, French, etc. Different countries obviously will have a different secondary language. If you found a specific type of product, can you sell it or make a twist to it or repurpose it to a specific type of buyer avatar with a certain illness or a disability? Okay. And I speak that as a sister to an older brother who was special needs. And every single time we found products for my brother, it was a blessing. So yes, you're spending money on buying something, but it's not that easy to find products for special needs. So I always say, if you can find that, there's a lot of search volume around it, and you're not only selling a product that's actually helping someone, but also there's actual demand around there. Seniors, kids, right? We spoke about yoga earlier. What about, so yoga mats may be saturated as a whole, but what about yoga mats for seniors? I've never looked at that. I just made that up right now. But, or yoga mats for kids, or yoga specifically for women during pregnancy, etc. I think you guys got the point. We can go to the next slide. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. Okay, before I continue, I really want to give a really quick introduction, if you don't know, about the latest update, which is Amazon's Product Opportunity Explorer. Very quickly, we'll go through this. Yep, so Amazon's Opportunity Explorer. Yep, we can go to the next one. Okay, so you should be seeing it under growth, and it should say Product Opportunity Explorer in your Seller Central account. If you can't see it, you can email Amazon in for them to give you access to it. And basically the way that it works is that where it says search in the middle there, I'm showing you on the screen as if you can see, but Megla will probably show around in the middle where it says search. You can put in a keyword. Around, it could be a very broad keyword, for example, I don't know, something like yoga, and then it will start to show you a whole bunch of niches within that specific category. Let's scroll down to the next one, Megla. You can also refine the searches that you put in, so you can choose, tell Amazon to look only at whatever keyword you're putting in a specific category. So let's just say if I've typed in the word body scrub, and I could say, please only look for body scrub within the beauty niche or the beauty category. Okay, so you can refine your search as well. Next slide, please. You can also, don't know what else. Oh, and then you can also search by specific subcategory as well. So I could also put in face scrub, body scrub, and then focus on only a specific subcategory like personal care as an example. Next slide, please. Megla, can you hear me? Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, next slide. Yep, next slide. Yep. Okay, so why am I even talking about this? Because this is a game changer, because it is showing us actual data from Amazon. Up to now, we've mostly used things like Helium 10, Jungle Scout, Merchant Words, etc., where they are giving us estimations of keyword data. And this is Amazon giving us actual keyword data. The difference here is that it's either for a 90-day period or a 360-day period. And then you have to try and guess what that is on the monthly basis. Not that it matters. What really matters is that people are searching for this. So here you've got actual search volume from within Amazon per keyword. I didn't want to spend too much time with this. So if we go to the next slide, I do have, which Megla has seen this as well, an in-depth tutorial on it that you can watch later because we don't have time for it now. Okay, this is where coming to the last part of the presentation. This is currently my favorite way to find products. The first part to this was to find starting points, right? To find specific niches or buyer avatars, etc. And my next step currently is I go into Facebook groups. Why? Because I don't then need something like PickFu, because I have the actual buyer avatars inside of a group where I can ask questions. I can like really analyze the buyer avatar within this. One of the first things that I do, if I can't find products myself, I'll go to where it says media. So this is, for example, a Montessori Facebook group. What you do is you go to Facebook on the top left, you put in, for example, Montessori, and then you click on groups, and it will start showing you heaps and heaps of different groups. You can also filter it by specific country. You can see that this specific group has 186,000 members in it. Okay, if you only knew the amount of product ideas I've had from this exact group just by doing what I'm about to show you. So the quickest way to do this, it doesn't mean it's the only way yet, you can go to the next one, is clicking on media. Because when you go to media, it straight away shows you images. It just shows you photos that these people have uploaded to this group. And I mean, I have an eye for things. So I specifically will know how to click on something quickly to get an idea. But if you look at this specific product here, I'm not saying this is a good or a bad product. I just never knew what this was until I saw it in this group, right? I clicked on this, and then I think it's called like marble racing or something like that. I clicked on this, and then I learned something new about a specific product that I would have never known about before. I don't think I put this in the presentation, but I did go to Amazon and I looked this up. So this woman put up a photo. She said that she bought this at a Montessori sale, and a few different women commented on this, telling her what it was. Some women asked her where she got it from. And then I was like, I've never heard of this. Went to Amazon, typed it in, went to the Opportunity Explorer, typed in the keyword, and I saw that there was like hundreds and thousands of search volume around this. Now, I did see that there was a lot of competition around this, but when I was on the Opportunity Explorer, I saw the keyword glow in the dark marble racing, whatever it is. I've now forgotten the name.
I think she's frozen. Sharon, are you there? Oh, we're having tech issues today.
Am I back? It's not my day today. Can you hear me, Nicola?
Yeah, you're back
Okay.
now.
Okay. All right, we're almost
Okay,
done. We're
yeah.
almost done.
Okay.
I just need you to share it again. Yeah, here we are. Okay, Nicola, you need to mute yourself because there's feedback.
Oh.
Please. Cool. Okay, I will just make sure that you can hear me. Nicola, do this if you can hear me. Okay, cool. Okay, so I went to Opportunity Explorer and I saw that there were a lot of searches around, not a lot. I saw that there was a niche, glow in the dark, marble racing. And then I went, you don't even understand what I did. I went to YouTube and I started looking at different YouTube videos around people racing marbles. And these are things that I wouldn't even know about, because even though I do believe in Montessori and I am a mother to a young kid, I didn't know about these types of things. And being in this group shows me it blows my mind the amount of products that you are suddenly exposed to. And then you just type in that keyword, you go to Amazon, and you start the rabbit hole process of looking at keywords. But my favorite example is the next example. So this is another group. Please go to the next slide, Nicola. Okay. Do you remember that I said earlier that I have a thing for cute things, right? So it was brought to my attention. If you know me, then you know that like I'm even embarrassed to show you how many cute things I have here. But anyway, it was brought to my attention that there is an actual niche out there called kawaii. So kawaii is cute in Japanese. And if you went and looked on Amazon, on Google, on anywhere that shows the keyword data, kawaii is like a huge thing, right? It's usually specifically gamer girls, which, remember, gaming today is like a huge thing in the world, and also gamer girls, it's a huge thing. And they love to buy cute little things. So I went ahead and joined a whole bunch of different Kawaii groups. This is one of them, Kawaii Finds. It's got 75,000 members in it. Please go to the next slide, Nicola. Okay. People are going to laugh when they see this. This was one of the images that somebody had put in media. Now, this is like, probably some people will think it's like pathetic. This is a garbage bag. It's pink and it smells good. And it's by Glad, which is a really, really huge brand, right? Look at the amount of people who liked this. 1,000 people liked this. 163 people shared it. And there's 66 comments. I went through every single one of those comments and I read them. And it blew my mind how much people were talking about this simple pink garbage bag, right? So I was like, okay, let's do a little bit of research. Went to Amazon. Next slide, please. Oh, no, I didn't. Before I went to Amazon, this is probably me wanting to show you guys around the search volume. So if I didn't notice, I didn't use anything within Helium 10 or anything like that. I only showed you data from Amazon itself. I typed in Kawaii on its own into Amazon and into the Explorer tool that I showed you. And you can see that in the last 90 days, and this is from November, so this doesn't include Q4, this includes before that, there were 384,000 searches with the word Kawaii in it, right? That is how popular Kawaii products are. I went onto Amazon. I may have screwed up the way I put this in the presentation. It doesn't matter. I'll say it now. I went into Amazon and I looked at pink. No, we'll stick to that slide for a second, Nicholas. Flip to the one where you were, the one above. I went into Amazon and I looked at the pink garbage bags. And then I realized that there is quite a bit of pink garbage bags out there. Okay, it's not that it's not saturated or anything. There's quite a bit, and there's also quite a bit of pink garbage bags sold by big brands. But then, now you go to the next slide, I realized they're frequently bought with. And they were all frequently bought with pink bins. And I was like, hey, what a perfect bundle. Let's sell a pink bin with the pink garbage bags. But I'm not going after normal keywords. I'm going after the Kawaii keywords. And this is the thing. When you understand who your buyer avatar is, you can even take a generic product like a pink bin that you could never get away with without knowing what I'm about to tell you now, and a lot of money, obviously. You can never just sell randomly a bin today. Bins are so saturated in Amazon. But you can possibly, right, I have to put that in there, disclaimer, possibly sell a cute pink bin, for example, in the shape of a cherry or in the shape of a mushroom or whatever, but focus on Kawaii keywords. So I could be going after a specific buyer avatar and selling, for example, a trash can and the bag set, but targeting Kawaii related keywords. So Kawaii bin, Kawaii room decor, etc. Those are broader keywords, but because there aren't a million. Can you still hear me, Nicola? Yeah? Okay. Because there aren't a million different Kawaii products, I would most probably be able to get away with this because I'm focusing specifically on brand building and specifically on the Kawaii niche. All right, next slide. So you can see I went into Amazon and I typed in, I went into Facebook and I typed in Kawaii Facebook groups. And you look at all these, 75,000, 43,000, 9.6 thousand, 34. I can't read that. I think it's 14K, etc. If you go into photos, you'll just see endless amount of images. And most of the images are products that technically somebody may have said you should never sell for example, bed sheet because they're so saturated. But what if you sell a bed sheet that's cute and you're focusing on Kawaii keywords? So that's why I do believe that focusing on a buyer avatar is extremely important today because I also know where they hang out. I can market to them in those Facebook groups through social media, on Amazon because the search volume is there. I can use Amazon PPC. There's so many different ways that I can get to my ideal buyer here. Can we go to the next slide, please, Nicola? So understanding who my buyer avatar is helps me to then, even if it means that even if I'm selling a generic product, so when I say generic product, what I mean is a bed sheet when you say bed sheet, if I was to go to Megla and say, hey, I want to sell a bed sheet, she may be like, I don't know, right? Or I want to sell clothes hangers, or I want to sell a pillow, or I want to sell a chair or a cup, or whatever it may be. That may sound to a typical person like a saturated niche. But what if I want to sell a cute bed sheet and go after kawaii keywords, cute clothes hangers and go after kawaii keywords, etc.? So how did this all start? It started with me making a list of different things that I care about or mean something to me or whatever it is. I realized that I love cute things, right? If you know me, you know this about me. I absolutely love cute things. Research found that it was also someone who told me about the kawaii specifically. I joined a whole bunch of kawaii Facebook groups. I joined a whole bunch of kawaii, I followed a whole bunch of kawaii Instagram accounts, etc. If you go to Pinterest and Etsy, it's just mind-blowing how much search volume there is around this. And then I found, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't really need a lot of product development. It's taking something that exists, just changing the design of it and focusing on a very specific keyword. I'm not even going to target the keyword bed sheets. I would target specifically kawaii bed sheets, for example. All right, we're down to almost the last slide. So micro niching. Sometimes sellers only look at the obvious target market and forget that there may be a different type of buyer or market that you can target. And many times this will lower your PPC spend because you're not going after the big, huge keywords. And it will give you higher conversion because it doesn't, usually there aren't that many competitors and you're the only option. It's easier to market your brand outside of Amazon with visual images, etc., as you know who your buyer avatar is and where they hang out. And it's easier to dominate when you're brand building because you're a shark in a small pond. And if we go to the next slide, this is where you can find me. And that's it.